Broadcasting from the studios of WKEN, where every day is the weekend. It's the Ken Calvert Show with your host, Ken Calvert. And if you have anything nice to say about him, keep it to yourself. And now, here's Ken Calvert.
Uh-oh. Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Ken Calvert Show podcast, coming to you from the casual studios of WKEN, where every day it's the weekend. I trust you had a good weekend. Yeah. Today, it's Monday Memories, and today, coming up on Monday Memories with your casual host, Mr. Ken Calvert here, I'm going to throw back to 2010 and Christopher Guest, who I'm a huge fan of, huge. All you have to do is say, "This is Spinal Tap," and I'm in. I'm all in. We'll get to that in a couple of moments. But I have a new thing. I'm convinced I'm OCD. In fact, I'm sure I am OCD and ADD and all of those things. I'll try and explain as best I can, but I can't stay on topic, and you probably notice that as you listen to the podcasts. So where was I going to start with this? Oh, you know what? Here we go. One of the things that really bugs me now, I'll start with the little things that really bug me. Maybe one or two, okay? Here's one. I've noticed now that on some of the cable news stations, they use breaking news for everything. I mean, if they change a light bulb, it's breaking news. I mean, no, a DC-10, well, they're not flying that airplane anymore. But when they were, if one of those would go down on a major highway with a bunch of people on board, that was breaking news, okay? And I'm not going to cite actual other examples that you know about. That was breaking news. But now, a cat video can be breaking news if it's got over 10 million views. So that's one of the things in my craw. I've been noticing it for years anyway. I just thought I'd bring it up today. So good for me. I got some other common beefs and observations for you today. Oh, here's one. I don't know. I don't think I'm alone in the end zone on this one. I really don't. But feel free to email me if I am. I'm a nut. I'm a freak for expiration dates. I mean, if it says packed on and sell by, okay, that means one thing to me. Usually it means I got 1 or 2 days max, unless it's bar cheese. And I don't think that those man-made cheeses actually have an expiration date. They're usually good for a couple of years. I think, right? All right, but so expiration dates. I'm obsessed with expiration dates. Milk. Oh boy, there you go. Yeah, are you into the sniff test if it's like 3 days past the expiration date? If it's 3 days past the expiration date and it's milk, it's in the sink. Okay, not in my house. You can sniff all you want. I don't care how good it smells to you. If it's 3 past expo on a dairy product like milk, in the sink. Oh, I went to, there's a store near me. They have a great deli, and I'm going to come back to that because I have another story about that. They have a great, great deli, and one of the things that I really like that they have, it's called Mediterranean tuna fish. And it's a little lower on the calorie scale, and it's supposed to be pretty darn good for you. So I like that. I like that stuff a lot. Well, I got some home, and I watched the guy pack it, okay? I watched him pack this stuff. And so I get home, and I put it in the fridge. Next day, not that day, the next day, I pop the top and take a whiff. Oof, not a good smell at all. And okay, it's fish for starters. And bad tuna fish, I don't know if it's not right, friends. Okay, so I popped the top right back on it, and I took it up to the guy who sold it to me. And I go there all the time. They know me, and they're nice people. Anyway, the guy takes a big sniff with, he puts it like really close to his nose, and he goes, "Smells fine to me." Click, and hands me it back. I'm serious now. He handed it back to me. I went, "I don't want it." And I said, "Do you mind? I would like a refund." Well, the guy kind of hemmed and hawed, but you would have thought I broke something, like really like a like Maker's Mark, a gallon of Maker's Mark, that I broke it. They treated me like that. I felt really stupid, but anyway, I didn't pay for the Mediterranean tuna. And now I'm actually I'm kind of thinking like I may have lost, I may have lost my urge to get Mediterranean tuna, and I didn't want that to ever happen. Oh, so getting back to the deli, this didn't happen the day that I got the bad Mediterranean tuna, but this has happened to me recently at the same deli. Not real busy, but getting to be kind of busy. All right, when you show up at a counter and there are 3 people working the counter, you usually make eye contact with one of the 3. Follow me, okay? You also make eye contact with the 1 or 2 others. Here's my point. You know your place in line. You know exactly where you are and how it's going to shake down, right? The guy getting the boar's head super roasted bologna, that's all he's getting, and you know that you're like 1 down from that now. And then all of a sudden, notice somebody else comes walking up, and that person just sort of blends right in, right? And is looking, and then all of a sudden, one of the free deli people says, "Who's next?" And the person that just walked up said, "I believe I am." And what do? All right, I'm just throwing it out there. All right, I want you to think about it. Who's next? You know he or she is not. You know it. You know that you are next. Do you say, "Excuse me, I believe I was next"? Do you? Yeah, I bet you do. Most people would say, "Yes, Ken, that's what I do." I don't. I just I kind of take it, all right? I don't know why, but I just sort of take it. But I don't think I should, and with your help, I wish you were here right now to say, "Okay, I'll show you how it's done, Ken. Come on with me. We're going up there right now. Watch, and I'll do it for you." But that's one of the things. So like I told you, this is getting back to that OCD, ADD thing that I kind of do. But that one, you do kind of go, "What the F? Really?" I've been in the hospital a bunch because I fell off my roof about, it's not funny, but it is now. I fell off my roof probably, I'm going to go 10, 12 years ago. I don't want to remember exactly when, but I do, February 13th. But I don't remember the year. I fell off the roof, I hit hard. Well, I broke 8 ribs. I broke 4 in the front and 4 in the back. And I got to tell you something. I said to myself, I know I'm dying, but I never thought it would hurt this much to die. But I obviously did not die. What I also did on that day, which I don't think I realized or they ever realized, is that I probably broke my back. And my neck wasn't too good either. Here's my point about hospitals, and I'm going to get this off my chest, and then we can move on from there. I've been in the hospital a lot because I've had 3 back surgeries and a neck surgery. And then, of all things, I had to have a stent put in my carotid artery. The guy was like listening with a stethoscope, and he went, "Ooh, it doesn't sound real good." That was a lot of fun. I'll have to tell you about that sometime. Anyway, I've spent a lot of time in the hospital. In fact, I have a buddy who's in the hospital right now. So I go to physical therapy a lot. In fact, I was there today, and the same person that I really like that works with me said, "Oh, you're going to the hospital. When you get home, take a shower." And I went, "Why?" And she said, "Oh, man, because there's just germs and stuff everywhere. Chairs, everything. Go home and take a Silkwood, man. Do it." So I had never really freaked out about it before, but I went and saw my buddy who was in the hospital later that day, and I got home, and I didn't take a shower, but I came pretty damn close. I mean, I used a lot of hand sanitizer in places that you normally don't put it. But that leads me to, when you're in the hospital, what does that mean? You have to go to the doctor's office a lot. Have you ever, and I know people who have, I wouldn't read a magazine in a doctor's office if you gave me $100, and I mean that. I would not touch a magazine in a doctor's. Now, I might see OCD, ADD Ken again. I'm just telling you, won't do it. So anyway, I was just wondering what your thoughts were on going to the hospital. Do you go home and then kind of like really kind of clean your arms and don't touch your eyes or nose or mouth on the way home? Because that's how I kind of treated it. Again, you see, you're getting to know me a little better through these, but, don't worry, I'm not a freak. I am not a freak about this stuff. So that's kind of where I was going with all of this stuff today. But I guess I'm just putting it out there that I'm pretty sure I'm a germaphobe, I'm ADD, OCD, I'm a tech dolt, and I no longer like Mediterranean tuna. And those of you that get in line and cheat the system, you know what? There's paybacks for that, and you know what they are. On today's thank you for listening to my little Ken's 10. I actually did about 12 minutes, so I apologize for that. Ken's 10 can mean one of two things, by the way. Could be 10 items that I have on my list, or it could be 10 minutes. So I'll try and keep it at 10. I try and keep these podcasts to 20 minutes because a guy that knows much more than I do about this says that when you do this, make sure they're only about 20 minutes unless you have a really compelling new guest live. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, today's guest, Christopher Guest, on Monday Memories with KC, going back about 8 years, and I did this interview with Christopher Guest about a release on DVD coming out called Unwigged and Unplugged. Christopher Guest, SNL in the 80s, he was a regular cast member. Of course, This Is Spinal Tap, just loved it. Could watch it over and over again. Waiting for Guffman, A Mighty Wind, The Princess Bride, For Your Consideration, Best in Show. And to top it off, he's a great guy and married to Jamie Lee Curtis. So here you go. This is me, KC, and Christopher Guest being my guest on Monday Memories on WKEN. Christopher Guest is my guest. We're going to talk a little bit today about Unwigged and Unplugged. This is going to be an exciting release, and tell me a little bit about it, if you would.
We, meaning me, and Harry Shearer and Michael McKean, the guys that brought you Spinal Tap, the film, decided to do a tour, an acoustic tour, as ourselves, and playing the music that we'd written over the last 20 years or so. And so we did a 30-city tour, and a DVD is now available of that show.
And that is available through www.unwigged.com, and I will repeat that throughout the program for you, Christopher. Well, getting back to just the whole dynamic of the relationship that you have with so many different people, your writing partner is Eugene Levy on occasion, correct?
Right.
You also work alongside Fred Willard and, of course, Catherine O'Hara and Michael McKean. Like you said, Parker Posey is always great. I'm always wondering how much of what you do is basically bullet points that then goes to ad-lib.
Well, ad-libbing is making up things within a script. Improvising is working off of an outline where every single line is original and comes from the person speaking. And the films we've done, going back to Spinal Tap, are improvised movies. In other words, there's an outline that may be 15 pages of what happens in every scene, but all the dialogue is improvised.
Doesn't that make for an incredible editing process?
Yes, it takes over a year, usually.
So these are the toughest types of films to do, then?
Well, not for the people who do them, no. Maybe for someone who is doing another kind of film. It's kind of what I do, so that's expected.
Are you working on one as we speak?
Not that I know of, no. No.
When will you know?
I'm in a development stage for a film.
That will be formatically close to the others?
I don't know yet.
Okay, then then walk me through the build out, the process, the thought. It comes and
Well, I typically will have a thought occasionally, once in a while, thought of a subject for a movie, and if I feel good that that's something that's going to be the thing to work with and on, I will call Eugene, and then we will talk about it, and then it has to kind of pass that test of mulling that over, and if we feel that's something, then we kind of jump into it.
the process for Waiting for Guffman, for example, came.
Well, the idea came about from seeing a junior high school production, a well-known musical, and all that happened around that. And it was very poignant in many ways to me, and funny as well. And it escalated from there.
And I assume that Best in Show was the same deal. You just happened to be the famous New York Dog Show.
Right.
This is fascinating. Christopher Guest is my guest here in Detroit, and of course the show came through Detroit, and it's now available, and we're talking about Unwigged and Unplugged. And again, it's available at www.unwigged.com. But I'm still fascinated by the entire process. Can I go back to Spinal Tap, or do you reach a point where you're tired of talking about it?
No, it's not at all. Go ahead.
Who is Nigel Tufnell? Who is he supposed to be?
Well, he's not any particular person, and he wasn't based on a particular person. I think people after the fact will say, "Oh, you're doing so and so," but that actually wasn't the case. I have lived in England a lot during my life, and when I was a kid, and have heard a lot of rock and roll, seen a lot of people, and I guess it's a composite of many, many different people that I saw.
So an aggregate of Beck meets Pete Townsend, all of your favorites, perhaps?
You have to remember, it happens. There's a kind of vague similarity in look to Jeff Beck, but Jeff Beck is one of the great guitar players in the history of the world. Nigel Tufnell is Nigel Tufnell. So,
right.
That would have been a bizarre mistake to base it on a great guitar player. I mean, the whole point of Spinal Tap is these guys are these strange guys that aren't the smartest guys in the world. They're not the most talented guys in the world, but you hopefully like them. But it's certainly not based on a big famous band, because otherwise we would have made a different movie.
You see, I'm old enough to remember as well when I think about A Mighty Wind. It certainly made sense for me because I think some people were like, okay, cool, here we go to the next level of Spinal Tap. And I was like, no. You're not getting this. This is Peter, Paul, and Mary and the Kingston Trio, and everybody in high school and college, had roommates.
Sure. The thing in common is that the groups in A Mighty Wind, the folk groups, were in a way like Spinal Tap, aiming way too high. I mean, it's not funny if you're playing songs where nothing happens or there's nothing funny in a movie. That's the whole point of comedy. So you want to have groups where there's some internal, conflict and there's some kind of cheesy attitude that they have about themselves where they're overreaching, I guess. So that was kind of the folk version of that, I guess.
All right, so you take Spinal Tap, you take Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, and for your consideration, and then I asked Christopher Guest, are they like your kids, and do you have a favorite?
No, there are parts of each movie that I have affection for. I look at certain scenes, certain things that happen that kind of stand out. But no, as films, no, I wouldn't say so.
How often of course you're working with the availability of the core again. I go back to, the Parker Posies, the Fred Willards, and the Gene Levies. They're not always available, though, are they?
Well, they have to be available.
Okay.
Otherwise, you don't make the movie. I think what's different about these kind of movies that are improvised, and it requires a certain talent that not everyone has, and those guys are really the best at it. Is that you if I have an idea, I start throwing out this net very early and say, I think I'm going to want to make a movie, 8 months down the line, and we only take, 2.5 weeks to shoot these things, 3 weeks. So you say, we need you, and if a person says I can't do it, then I can't make the film. It's not as if I can just swap somebody out.
That is absolutely amazing. 2.5 to 3 weeks to do the entire film. That's
Well, I think 26 days is the average. Yeah.
Christopher, I won't keep you. Jamie Lee is doing well?
She's doing very well, thanks. Yeah.
A Detroit guy by the name of Tim Allen and I grew up together in high school, and he said that he had a chance to hang with you Christmas with the Cranks, and said you were one of the most incredibly delightful people he's ever been around.
Well, that's very nice.
And I can't thank you enough for joining us here.
My pleasure.
And Unwigged and Unplugged is available right now for you at www.unwigged.com. Christopher, thank you.
Thanks again.
You can subscribe to the Ken Calvert Show podcast on Apple iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. It's also available by going directly to www.thekencalvertshow.com. You can reach Ken at kencalvertpodcast@gmail.com. The preceding program is the property of Ken Calvert and may not be rebroadcast without the written permission of Ken Calvert.